What do we do about all these symptoms of hormone imbalance? Is it hormone replacement? I want to tell you another story in relationship to the decision about hormone replacement. I live in Marin County, California, and there's a town here, Sausalito. It's a tourist town, and they have a lot of t-shirt stores there. And one day I happened to be there, and I went into one of the t-shirt stores, and I saw a t-shirt on the wall just cracked me up. There's a picture of a woman on the t-shirt holding a gun, pointing the gun outward. And the t-shirt says, "Okay, just give me the estrogen and no one will get hurt." And sometimes it really feels that way. But is hormone replacement appropriate for everybody? Should you actually be asking your doctor for hormone replacement? It's a very personal decision. And it's a conversation that I have with women and men, but more so with women very regularly. When I give this lecture in front of a live audience, I get a lot of questions about hormone replacement and the pros and cons of it. So as I said, it's a very personal decision, and it's based partly on the severity of the symptoms. When a woman comes into me and says, "I am utterly miserable, you have got to do something about this," we know we have to take action. So the severity of symptoms, what's your quality of life like, is an important piece of whether hormone replacement is appropriate for you. The second is your family history. Is there any family history of breast cancer in a close relative? That means grandmother, mother, aunt, sister. Also, what is your age? If you're more than 10 years since your last menstrual period, then it's not appropriate for you to start hormone therapy if you've not been on it already. What's happening is that the biology has not caught up with the culture. In our culture presently, women are living on average into their 80s and may live much longer than that. And we want to live with active, happy lives. We want our brains, we want our bones, we want our sex lives. But the biology is such that nature didn't intend for women to live 40 years or more without estrogen. Nature originally created women with the thought that we were going to pretty well pass away after our childbearing years. Nature made no provisions for women to live as long as women are living now. And it takes it's just 2 generations ago, women's life expectancy was in the 50s. And now it's in the 80s. Evolution doesn't change that quickly. It doesn't change in 2 generations. But the culture has changed dramatically, partly due to improved hygiene, improved medicine, and improved state of mind. So what's a woman or a man to do that we're going to have, could be up to 4 decades without the hormones that have vitalized us in our younger age? Some of you who are listening might have taken hormones for a while. You might have been on replacement hormones and then got taken off of them when the Women's Health Initiative report came out in the early 2000s. As a result of that report, estrogen got demonized. Women and their doctors began to believe that estrogen was dangerous and bad for women. And many, many thousands, I don't even know how many women were taken off of their hormones at that point. That study has now been shown to have been flawed, and there's a lot of controversy about it. And it was a study of just 2 forms of synthetic estrogen and a form of synthetic progesterone. It was a progestin. It was not natural progesterone like women secrete themselves. It was 2 drugs that were used. And women in that study did show an increased risk of strokes, and they stopped the study and women got pulled off of estrogen. But now we have much better and safer ways of providing natural estrogens, bioidentical estrogens, and natural progesterones. So the question about whether to take hormone replacement therapy, another factor is what form of hormone replacement therapy is available to you, is being offered to you. And I'm going to explain to you some of the different forms so you know what to ask for or you know what to think about. So I'm not on principle opposed to hormone replacement therapy. I just think it really depends on the woman or man's individual circumstances. Estrogen and testosterone are not bad things. They both have a lot of positive effects in the body. Having enough estrogen in the system is not only for reducing the symptoms that I mentioned, but estrogen helps to retain your memory. It helps brain function. It's been shown to reduce the incidence of Alzheimer's disease. It prevents osteoporosis. It prevents fat deposits in the belly. It keeps the skin and the tissues moist and stronger. Estrogen helps sleep. Very often women come into me for hormone balancing problems and their main symptom is that they can't sleep or they can't stay asleep. Proper use of estrogen or the proper balanced amount of estrogen has been shown to reduce the incidence of heart disease in women and in men by 30%. But it has to be started within 4 years of the last menstrual cycle. So, as I said, I'm not opposed to hormone replacement therapy, but the type really matters. So you have to understand the options. So what are the different kinds of hormone replacement therapies available to you? I'm still talking about ones that need to be prescribed. We'll talk about natural ways of balancing your hormones after this. In deciding whether or not to use hormone replacement therapy, it's useful to know about the different kinds of estrogen and the types that are available for replacement. Women secrete estrogen in 3 forms. We call them E1, E2, and E3. E1 is estrone, E2 is estradiol, and E3 is estriol. You can see this on your slide. Cycling women secrete these hormones in a ratio of 80% E3 or estriol, and the other 20% is a combination of E1 and E2, which is estrone and estradiol. Since estradiol or E2 is the strongest form of estrogen and the one that's usually responsible for eliminating the symptoms of menopause or estrogen deficiency, Western medical doctors generally prescribe only estradiol, only E2. This is not bioidentical. In order to have a bioidentical hormone replacement, you need to have a form that has both estriol, E3 in it, and E2, estradiol. We call it a biest. That way it is prescribed in the way that women secrete these hormones naturally. So you would want an 80-20 generally. You want it 80% estriol and 20% estradiol. Estriol is protective against the changes in the breast and the uterus, where estradiol is associated with any of the breast and uterine changes that we would consider bad side effects. Sure. Estradiol is the part of the estrogen fragment that is the one that's responsible for breast and uterine cell changes. So if there is a family history of breast cancer or uterine cancer or cervical cancer in your family, you are not a candidate for estradiol, but you might be a candidate for estriol. So if you are going to consider getting hormone replacement therapy, you want to have this prescribed by either a naturopath or a medical doctor that believes in the value of bioidentical hormone replacement with E3 and E2 in your prescription. The progesterone part needs to be a natural progesterone, not a progestin. So if your doctor is prescribing that you take progesterone, and if you have a uterus, ladies, you must take progesterone along with estrogen. If you don't have a uterus, it's fine to just take estrogen. But if you have a uterus, it's not safe to take estrogen alone because estrogen can build up the lining of the uterus and can cause problems. The progesterone will cause the lining to slough off. So it is important that you have a balanced prescription, including a biased and a natural progesterone. And remember, you can't start hormone replacement therapy in your 60s if your last menstrual period was in your 40s or 50s. You need to start it within 4 to 5 years of your last period. These biasts with progesterone can be prescribed by your practitioner for a compounding pharmacy. And then you can get it in a lot of different ways. You can get it as a little cream in a syringe that is used vaginally. You can get it as a cream that's put on the inside of your arms or the inside of your legs. Many doctors prefer to prescribe patches that stay on and are changed a couple of times a week. The patches, you should know, are just estradiol. They're not bioidentical in our 80-20 biased model. You may have more questions about hormone replacement therapy. Women always do. But that's what I'm going to end with in terms of that part of the conversation. And perhaps I'll be answering further questions at another time. Now, what about testosterone for men and for women? Testosterone can help with libido issues and sexual dysfunction issues, both for men and women, but only in certain cases. Testosterone replacement does not help men unless their testosterone levels really are low. If the testosterone levels are low normal or normal, asking your doctor for a testosterone prescription will not make a difference if you're noticing a change in libido or a change in your functioning, your sexual functioning. So it really has to be measured and it has to be low. And if you do ask your doctor to measure your testosterone levels, you want to measure both total testosterone and free testosterone. Because a lot of the testosterone that's circulating in the bloodstream is bound to a globulin and makes it inactive. You want to know the free testosterone because that's the actual stuff that your body's using. Now, what about testosterone replacement therapy for women? Women often come in and remark that their libido has reduced or their ability to orgasm has changed. And would they be a candidate for testosterone replacement? Again, that's a conversation you have to have with a practitioner. But you should know that there are side effects. Again, it's a personal decision, a quality of life decision, but there are certain side effects for women to take extra testosterone. It could cause an increase in body or facial hair. It can cause an increase in acne and also anger, as well as that increase in horniness. I'll leave the conversation about testosterone with the tagline, the cut line for testosterone. How you know testosterone? It's either F it or kill it. All right, so that's the hormone replacement piece in relationship to prescriptions. What can we do if you're not a candidate for hormone replacement, or you don't want to take hormones, but you still have some of these symptoms of imbalance? What are the natural ways that you can balance your hormones? So go on to the next slide, hormone balance without drugs. If hormone replacement therapy is not for you, there are lots of alternative ways to bring your hormones and your experience of yourself into better comfort and function. First one, and we'll be circling around back to this over and over, is diet. Reducing your sugars, because we've already talked about how sugars affect your cortisol levels, and cortisol levels affect your estrogen levels and your serotonin levels and your thyroid levels. So reducing sugars, avoiding white foods, and I'll talk about this more in the diet section. Increasing your fiber to 30 grams a day. I generally recommend eating lean and green, that's lean protein and green foods. Reduce caffeine and alcohol. Now, every time I say this, hands go up in the room. How much alcohol? Are you going to take my wine away from me, my beloved drink every night? So the answer is no, I'm not going to take your wine away from you. But if you are a woman that gets night sweats, you probably have already noticed if you drink wine before you go to bed, you are going to have more night sweats. So it is your decision to make. If you're a breast cancer survivor, you should not be drinking much alcohol. Now, when I say much, here's my guidelines for healthy amounts. No more than 7 glasses of wine a week, or 1 hard drink, whatever the ounces of that might be, per night. So 7 glasses of wine a week. I don't care how you do it. If you want to have 3 glasses one night, then you have to abstain some of the other nights. But a healthy amount, no more than 7 drinks a week. And caffeine, I would say healthy, no more than 1 cup of coffee a day. If you're using 3 and 4 cups of coffee a day to stay awake, then you need to look at other ways of supporting your body. Okay. If you're a woman with symptoms of estrogen deficiency, there are things that you can include, supplements and herbs, that will help balance out some of those symptoms. Flaxseed, you can put it in your cereal or in your smoothie. There's a plant, maca. Maca is a plant that is used in the Andes. It's used mostly in Peru, but it's well known up in the mountains there that middle-aged women and men use maca to continue their stamina, to continue their libido and their sexual life. Maca is a really good plant for men and women if you're in the Middle Ages. Pueria mirifica is also a plant that has been shown to have positive effects if you're having night sweats or hot flashes and you don't want to use hormones. You can use soy, because soy is called a phytoestrogen. It's a plant that acts like an estrogen in the body, as long as you're not hypothyroid. If you are hypothyroid, soy products can make that worse. But if you're not hypothyroid, you can have some soy milk every day, and that will help to mediate these estrogen deficiency symptoms. There's another plant called Mucuna Pruriens, and this plant has been shown to improve libido. It's like an aphrodisiac, both for men and women, and the way that it works is to increase dopamine in the brain. Dopamine is a reward neurotransmitter. It makes you feel satisfied. It gives you a sense of well-being. So these are all plants and nutrients that you can use for balancing your hormones without drugs. You can increase your exercise, especially some cardio exercise, because that will increase your secretion of serotonin, and serotonin makes you feel better, calmer, gives you a sense of well-being. We'll be talking a lot more about exercise. Now, I mentioned before that you can work with Chinese herbs and acupuncture. I mentioned that when we're balancing hormones, we work with ways of bringing the yin up to balance the yang. And there are herbal prescriptions that are called yin tonics. They help stabilize and build the yin. There are also liver detox herbs. And when there are symptoms of estrogen dominance, if you're irritable, if your breasts are sore, if you find yourself being angry, if you've got that kind of just like swollen, stuffed, congested feeling, it's the liver that's acting up, and you can do a liver detox with plants and nutrients. There are also something called kidney yang tonics. The yang is the more masculine aspect. The yang is what improves libido. And there are tonics that will improve the kidney yang functioning for men and for women. I mentioned earlier that in Chinese medicine, we always work with the kidneys when we're trying to balance hormones. So there are kidney yin tonics and there are kidney yang tonics. But these are something that need to be prescribed. You need to be working with a practitioner. There are supplements that you can be taking that will help to balance hormones. One of the ones you may not think about actually affecting hormones is probiotics. And there's new, really fascinating research. We'll talk about this topic more when we're talking about diet. But the microbiome in the gut, which is the bacteria that live in your intestinal tract, certain strains of bacteria that are in the GI tract actually affect estrogen levels. So using probiotics can have a mediating effect on the estrogen levels in the body, and that's important if you are a breast cancer survivor or a prostate cancer survivor. So probiotics is good. Another supplement is called 5-HTP, and this is a nutrient that is a precursor to serotonin. It helps the brain to make more serotonin, which helps particularly with sleep and with moods and depression. Another nutrient, two other nutrients, these are amino acids, L-theanine and GABA. These are all over the counter. These two amino acids reduce anxiety and they create a sense of calmness. So if you're having trouble falling asleep or you're just walking around with that kind of general anxiety sense, you can use these two nutrients to mitigate that. Oxytocin. We spoke about oxytocin when I was talking about stress reduction, but oxytocin is a way of balancing excess estrogen, a way of balancing irritability and moodiness. And you can get oxytocin just by talking with somebody that you care about and cares about you. Hugging is a really good way of getting oxytocin. Just spending time with people that you love will actually help balance your hormones. And the last one of our list of hormone balancing without drugs is sleep, adequate sleep. I'll spend a whole session talking about sleep and how important it is, but I want to at least mention it right now. Okay, so time for action. I had asked you to print out your copy of the wheel exercise that you did at the beginning, and want you to have your wheel in front of you each time you listen to these sessions. So take a look at the hormones section of the wheel. Now, based on what you now know, based on everything I've just told you for the last bit of time, what steps are you ready now to take to create a better hormone balance? Are you going to look for some of these natural methods? Are you going to talk with your doctor? Are you going to talk with your natural medicine practitioner? Are you going to go see an acupuncturist? Are you going to hug your girlfriends or your husbands or your wives a little bit more? What actions make sense? Are you going to change your diet? So I'd like you to write down on your wheel next to the section that says hormones, 1 or 2 steps that you know you can do easily and will do soon that will help you to have a better hormone balance. Okay, so this ends the conversation about hormones, an important piece for feeling great. Our next session will be everyone's favorite thing to do, eat. Diet is so complicated, but what's an eater to do? See you next time.